right, well, let's get back to our share screen. Okay. So, all right, well, let me make sure this is right. Okay. So thank you, Valerie, because this is just really amazing. I love having this as part of the show. We'll move forward to Joan Scully. Another just special, beautiful painting I've loved for a while now. Joan, tell me about your painting.
Tell you about the pandemic, tell you about isolation, tell you about physical disability and the impact on a human being. I lived for 2 years, it seems like, on a couch. And the concept of whatever was out there, and it probably makes no sense, but what I would see out of a window would be very small. What my paintbrush saw were things that had grown and grown and grown while I had not grown. So that's just a feeling about not a moment in time, but the result of a long time of isolation, and I think a good chunk of depression. I have no idea why in the world a bird keeps coming into some of my paintings. It will just appear. It sounds bizarre, but I literally have no control over it. All of a sudden, a puddle of paint turns into the image of something resembling a bird. That's just, Renee has seen that over and over.
Which I love. And now it's like when I see birds, I'm gonna get that film out there. When I see birds, I think of you. Every time I see a bird in a painting, it's like, I've got to share this one.
Well, do it. And the birds are usually far more manicured and realistically done. My birds are just weird. They just come into wherever and they sort of sit there in a boring manner. But anyway,
that canary in the cave thing too. It's going in before you and interpreting things and making sure things are safe for you, right?
maybe, mayhaps. But this is kind of an amorphous person trying to take a step. And the question, of course, is what that next step is going to be. Given all of the challenges that each of us have experienced, you know, will it be to the left? Will it be to the right? Will it be forward? God only knows. We've got some barriers there.
Just really amazing painting, and just to see it live too. It's like so beautiful in person, because I'd only seen this one, that you shared online with me, and to have it here next to me and I get to look at it every day. Like just the way you put down paint. Oops, sorry. Where did that come from? Oh. You guys could see all this stuff that pops up on my screen, but hopefully not.
Maybe birds will pop up on your screen.
Yeah, that was it. Anyway, yeah, it's just, it really, that caused quite a stir in here too. A lot of people were just spending time with your work, and I loved seeing that, and I loved just the ideas of the what's next, the next steps, and that's, I think, where so many people are right now. So it's very relatable story wise, because we've all gone through this big thing together worldwide, and everybody's kind of like, wow, how important was that day job, things like that, and just questioning everything about life. But yeah, it's just beautiful work. Thank you.
Thank you for giving us the opportunity to think about our work and to see it exhibited.
See, I put yours next to mine. So I thought that was pretty fun, just because, I mean, I just, love your work, of course. And it's like, oh, I want to be able to hang in a gallery next to Joan Scully, be able to say I was there, I did it. But also I feel like, yeah, it's just, there was something here too, that's like kind of the progression made sense to me too, going around the gallery. So yeah, that was mine. I'll just read quickly because I just want to hear from everyone else. But this was, I'm in a series of joyful paintings right now because I did a series of miserable women paintings for so long with my thesis. And that's so mean to call them miserable women, but they were sad paintings that would make me very emotional, and I'd come home pretty drained. And so I feel like it was a time when, this is a time now where I'm trying to get back into my studio, and I realize the reason I don't want to be there is because I have this associated sadness. So that was what I wrote about. The studio doors rusted shut from the tears shed within. The watery substance seeps through the cracks, eroding the rotting wood and weakened hinges, creating a new entrance, clearing the way for me to patiently wade through the sludge. These murky waters renew themselves, bubbling up like the joy found at the bottom of a baptismal font. And the fountain is just, it's the one from Savannah, Forsyth Park fountain. So it's not like exactly, I left parts out and everything, but it's just the idea of that, and just kind of going back to art school at this stage of life and getting my MFA that was brought joy to me. So I wanted to like focus on that moment. And even though I was doing all the women paintings and being sad through that whole process and carrying all that weight of other people's stories, and my own story, it was nice to just to visit the pleasures and the things that bring us joy. So that's kind of my focus now for a while. Well, I will be painting too, just at least for a little bit, just to and then I'll probably get back to other people's stories. But for a while, I just want to have this little moment of dancing and playing in the water and refreshing, and seeing if that gets me back to a good space in my studio practice. So that is mine, but let's move on because there's wonderful things to come. So we're going back through the gallery. The next one we're going to come to is Colleen's. Where did oh, here we go. Go straight on it. Which this too makes me just incredibly happy to see this one in person too. Another one that I only saw online, and it was just so great to actually have it here and see it. So Colleen.
Thank you. In doing this, I'm going to start from, first of all, I want to say thank you for putting me next to you. And thanks everybody for letting me be part of a group that is so prestigious and successful. Going to the painting, I have to say that charcoal has become my friend. I used to use charcoal in painting to give me the freedom to outline something that I wanted to say, to be able to actually put on paper something that would be rewarding without having to do it in an actual pencil or an outline that I was trying to obtain to be able to paint. But I found that my freedom actually came from the charcoal itself. And I'm able to create so many things that are not threatening. I'm not stuck with putting paint down, and with acrylics, thank goodness. I mean, you guys have all proven that acrylics or whatever your medium is, that you have found that freedom in that product. But to me, it was a little bit intimidating to be able to accomplish my desire with just paint. So I used charcoal to assist me into getting that freedom before I put the paint down. And this is the first of a series, and I've created quite a few more, but and it's very intriguing. It was a little bit inspired by a trip to Antarctica where I wore goggles, and the pictures all reflected the people I was. They were mirrored, and I could see in my reflections in photos that that I could see all the people that were making my trip such a fabulous time. But I think my inner desire is to see things through the eyes of other people. So eyes and glasses have become huge. I have a friend that kept her dad's glasses for 50 years because she wanted to be able to see what he could see. And so I think now the inspiration is goggles, glasses, whatever. And I see lots of us wear glasses, myself included, but I'd like to see what other people see at times. And so it's not necessarily about the figure, it's about what the figure is seeing and what the figure is experiencing. And so this is all charcoal. Obviously there's a base paint, but it's all charcoal. And I've always been intimidated by eyes, and now I'm fascinated by eyes. So even with dark glasses, I can see through to the person that's wearing it. So like I say, this is the first, and through my process, I'm incorporating the paint with the charcoal, still having the charcoal primary. And I, again, focus on the eyes and the glasses. And one thing, Renee, with your studio, I see that you will have the freedom to venture into your joyous side, because when I toured your studio, it's fascinating. It gives you, it's huge, and it gives you the feeling of freedom, and the freedom that I've experienced with you in the past, because you've pushed me and given me the permission to follow my hand with the charcoal, to follow the tool. And I used to be really tight about a lot of that stuff, but now I think my freedom is taking me actually over the edge. But that's something that you've encouraged and pushed through your programs. But I think what you can accomplish in that studio, and I'd like to be a part of that as well, is just got the greatest feeling, and gives you that ability to move past your limitations.
Thank you. It's like, yeah, it is big. So we'll host a ball in there sometime.
My story, exactly. My story comes from years in the trucking industry, and not allowing myself to have any creative escape. And my mother, who's a part of this group, has been a fabulous artist, accomplished, amazing person. And I always looked up to the fact that she could put her true feelings on canvas or paper or whatever it might be. So after my career, I literally sat down and explored and worked for the ability to be able to put my actual feelings outside of my head. So I'd like to see clearly, I'd like to feel clearly and see other people through what they see of me and outside of their head, if that makes any sense.
Absolutely.
So charcoal is my friend right now, and it gives me such a feeling of accomplishment. And now as this series progresses, I'm adding the color and the paint to the charcoal, not the charcoal to the paint.
I love it. I love watching your process for sure, and seeing you grow. And this whole series that you're doing, I think it's going to be really remarkable. The whole idea of looking, I mean, that is part of what we're doing with this show and sharing our stories, is to create this empathy, to create this, like, how are other people seeing? What are they seeing? And caring about that. How do they see the world? And that's, I mean, it's just a big part of our shared story. Like, we all experience maybe the same thing, but we're seeing it in different ways. So how can we just kind of, I like the idea of just putting on their glasses and seeing what it is they're seeing, and creating that, space for their story to be told as well.
Right, and the final thing I want to say is that I found in my series that every single drawing, painting, whatever I'm doing has always been a female. And I think that that means, I mean, I was in the trucking business and that's not a female-based business. And I think females are so much stronger than ever before. And to me, it's fascinating to see how many successful women are in our environment, in our industries, in our development in art. And something we've talked about many times in the past was that female artists are fabulous, but not recognized at the level as a male would be. So I found that interesting looking back that now 4 or 5 of these products are all females.
Right.
So it's inspiring to me.
That's great. That is really great. And that is what this gallery space is about, you know, let's let the female voices be heard.
And you got some good juju going on there.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It's just a thrill to have this in the gallery. I love it. And I love the work you're doing and so glad to be able to share it with everybody.
Thank you for accepting it. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. We're going to move on to Barb Etzel. And gosh, this just brings me so much joy. The color and the mark making and all of it, the whole thing. So Barb, are you here?
It was.
I know. It's like, did she come out?
Yeah.
There you
Oh,
are.
there she is.
So yeah.
So this is the canning pot. It's sort of a self-portrait, which was fun to paint. Has lots of different parts of my life in it. Life when I was raising kids, life before I picked up paintbrushes and started doing art. And I'll just read what I wrote. A canning pot. She planted the seeds. She watered them when no rain fell. She harvested the crop. She preserved the hardest in this canning kettle. She brought sustenance. She would be walking in those open fields with only her soul to field. Can you see her for more than what she provides? She labors, she nurtures. Can you name her? So I feel like in this time of life, I am discovering who I am and other gifts I have than the gifts I give to other people. So that's what I painted.
Perfect. I love it. It's huge for anyone that hopefully in those installation shots, you get sort of an idea of it, but it's rather large and beautiful. And the mark making is exquisite. But the story too, I just feel like, yes, that so many people are like, they're drawn to like kind of the quirkiness of you having a canning pot on your head, and missing your arm and things of like those kind of things that cause you to look and then look again, like they're drawn and then it's like, wait, what's going on here? And they want to know more of what it is. And then I think that they definitely, as far as like the conversations I overheard, that they could relate to something about it, something in those words that just, what are we doing here on this earth and how are we caring for each other and all of it. And especially that last line, can you name her? I mean, that kind of brings it back to, your own story a lot of times. But thank you. I just think it's wonderful. Let's get you in closer, but look at that mark making. It's
Thank you
just,
for having me.
just exquisite. It's really a fun painting. And it brings joy for sure. So thank you. And then we're moving to, well, almost the end, and then we'll skip back to Judy's, but as you go through the gallery, you come to, actually, I'm going to show you where it is first, and then we'll go back to that. But I have it by the door because it was just something about this interior that I really loved. And I felt like this is like the perfect place, first because it was small, but also I want to make sure people see it, you know, and read it, and the story especially too. So this is Ingrid, and Ingrid, tell us more.
Yes. Are you able to enlarge the
Yes,
photo? We can.
Yeah, and I'm sorry I have it under glass, but I was gonna grab a still shot from you before it was framed or something. I don't think I ever got that. I forgot to ask.
Thank you so much for having me and being in this discussion and in this show. I really appreciate it. And I also feel that it's wonderful to be here with all these other talented women. And it's food for the soul. And Valerie had mentioned something about cultivating spirit. So I'm engaged with this conversation, and it makes me feel good. So thank you. Many of you that know my work, this is really unusual. I usually, right now, I've been working in oils, and I'm primarily a landscape painter. And this is a pastel painting in very tight of an interior space. And it has, I tend to be drawn to light in most of my paintings that I do now. Light and shadow are really important to me. And so this building is spectacular. It's an old building that was built in the late 1800s. It's an inn on a lake. And sometimes I'll find in life you are in certain situations or places where the light just catches your eye, or there's a scene that you feel that you just have to capture no matter what. And the story here, I like, first of all, the fact that you left out the titles so that people could make up their own story. But I also have no figures in it too, which leaves it even more open for interpretation. So I wrote a story to go with this that you have on your wall. And it was more of like, who could have possibly in all those years been sitting at this table? And at the time I didn't really go towards like my personal stories, but it was more of a story of the table. So like anticipation of the meal to come, more vibrant expectations as a marriage proposal, an unexpected end of a relationship tucked away in the corner, or two sisters gathered expecting comfort after grieving over their mother's death. Long dresses and top hats, blue jeans and sweatshirts, this table remains the same as time passes and its patrons age. The air is thick, but the light filled as ghosts of expectations pass through. Like a movie scene on time lapse, they come and they go, but the table remains. And so nostalgia, relationships, what has this building and this space seen? So I kind of wrote in that type of narrative to go along with this painting.
It's just perfect. And I love that, you know, really. And I think that was captured by people that were looking, and a lot of people were looking at that one. And the idea, you know, when we see a table, we all carry so many stories with that, because we've all sat at a table, maybe one like this, but sat at a table and had an important conversation, or, you know, held the hand of a friend, I should say. And, you know, somebody grieving, somebody celebrating. I mean, it just brings so many emotions and thoughts and stories with it, that it was just a perfect thing. And I know I was surprised too. I was like, wow, you sent me an interior. I was expecting a landscape. And it was like, wow, so beautiful and just so exquisite. It's just lovely.
It's a lot tighter than I usually paint. You know, now I'm using brush and bigger strokes and everything. So I tend to sometimes, when I paint with pastel, it's more of drawing. That's what I love about pastel, that it's a drawing and painting combination. And I tend to get a little tighter when I work with pastel. But again, it's the light that captured the essence of the scene in the first place to make me want to paint it.
Right. I can see that for sure. It's just beautifully done. Yeah, sometimes I think that is an artist thing. So we get attracted to light and just zero in on that. And oh my gosh, the way you have it streaming through, it's so beautiful. And the glow and everything. I love the shadow on the chair. So much about it. Oh, but definitely the story too. The story is just a lot. And yeah, it can be so many things for so many people. Yeah.
Time. Yeah, for sure. And it's also kind of feminine and masculine at the same time. And it's pretty well structured, but then it's free form with the light coming through. So,
Mhm.
you know me, I like to balance all that stuff.
I know. You're
Yeah.
a thinking artist for sure. You're just like, gosh, I always have admired that.
Well, thank you.
Thank you
Thanks.
so much. So I'm gonna jump up. I don't think, did Judy come in yet? Because I'm only seeing one at a time on the way my screen is right now. But is, I don't know if she's here. Judy, are you here?
No, she hasn't come in yet.
Not, okay. Well, I'm gonna go through anyway, just so we can see it really quickly. Did I put her story there? I have it. Oh, it's over on this side. Here we go. I think Judy's an amazing artist, and she's been doing these self-portraits for me for our class. And just incredible. Go through, show them, but showing health issues and pain and things like that are things that she's addressing in her story. And how people view it, I'll read it for you. 1995, the end of life as I knew it. I began experiencing excruciating burning pain in my hands, arms, and legs. In 1996, fibromyalgia was not recognized by the medical community as a real element. Doctors considered it to be a syndrome, unexplainable, unverifiable, and in all probability, psychosomatic. Their unofficial diagnosis was hysterical middle-aged woman syndrome. Doctor after doctor told me, test after test, after expensive test, came back negative, that nothing was wrong with me, and go home and get a life. Some looked at me knowingly, like we shared a secret. You're a psychotherapist, you know all about psychology, wink, wink. The only reason I winked back was to blink away the tears that were threatening to disrupt the facade that I wasn't a hysterical middle-aged woman. I just wanted someone to put a name to what I had. Gynecologist, gastroenterologist, cardiologist, neurologist, rheumatologist, environmental specialist, acupuncturist, immunologist, chiropractors. Yep, you were reading right. They are all in plural. I didn't just see one of each. I saw private practitioners, researchers, and head of hospital departments. I'm sure each of them wrote hypochondriac on their charts. Over 2+ decades later, I'm no longer middle-aged, just hysterical. I still struggle. And some mornings I wake up feeling like my locomotive hit me and the bottoms of my feet on fire, even though the only thing they touched for 7 hours was a sheet. But now that the pharmaceutical companies have realized there's over 10 million people in the United States alone and millions more worldwide with this condition, the research is progressing. So it's a lot. It's a lot. And when you look at her paintings, reading her story and looking at her paintings, there's definitely an interaction and maybe a different perception, I think, that people were getting from it. A lot of people were really spending time here as well in the gallery because I think of those words, and there's whole studies on the medical profession and the tests being geared towards men, and they're not researching things as much that only affect women. So that always, I see the statistics on the money spent and the testing done and testing not like calibrated right for a women's body and things like that. So like it's very, very upsetting. But yeah, her expressive way of showing herself and her pain and her experience, I think a lot of people relate to. So many people walk around in pain and we don't know it because we put on a different face when we're out amongst people. So if Judy comes back, we will hopefully get a chance to hear what she has to say. Let's go back through. And with that, get back to all of you. So I just love that we all get together, even like some were here in person but now that we have everybody in the whole group. I don't know if anyone has other concluding thoughts or thoughts about just when I gave you that prompt or that idea of how do you, how did you relate to, what I feel like for some of you, I had to pull teeth to get some writing from you. But for others, like what was your experience, for anyone, what was your experience given a prompt to have a story? Does it make sense? Anybody?
Yeah, well, I had to keep asking, well, what is it that you're looking for? What's your idea, or what's this about? And it was because this is something that you devised, and you made up this thing, and it's very creative, and it's unique, and um I think it worked really amazing. But I, I I feel like I kind of had to, pull some of your teeth. Okay. So
Not some of mine.
what do you not want?
Clarify. No, you kept getting to me. It's like, okay, I'll explain it one more time and in different words.
That was great.
I'm glad. And I was surprised too. I was like, I was having my doubts for a while. It's like, oh gosh. And then when the paintings started coming in, it's like, how is this going to look as a show? And it really, I feel like once they were in, it was like, it went up. I think I hung this show in an hour, maybe.
Oh,
It was fast. It was like, oh my gosh, yes, I knew exactly where everything was going. So yes, it was pretty neat to have
It's
all your work
interesting how,
together.
yeah, it's interesting how they all work together so well and how they're coming from so many different angles. And another thought that I had was, thinking about, image and text. There's just a whole world of things to think about when you put image with text. And something I think about a lot because I do use some text in some of my paintings. And what I've come to realize is that while you're afraid of directing someone's thoughts into a certain lane, one thing I've realized is that everyone brings something different, and there's actually a conceptual side to words that everyone experiences differently, so, and that's not something that I realized before, but I'm realizing it more now. Of course, it's the words that you choose. For me, I always like to leave a little bit of space of open-endedness, ambiguity, to leave space for people to bring their own ideas. But I do think that space is there more than I realized.
I know.
I think it's
was
interesting.
like, oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, I was just going to comment on how I think it's so interesting that the themes that we all addressed were universal. The whole idea of, like Colleen, looking through, could be a pair of rose-colored glasses, right? And how we each have different perspectives and how we see things in certain ways and how we experience them. And the narratives that the artists provided are really just a launch pad. I think that is what's so interesting. It doesn't define the work. I think it just gives the viewer, whether they read the words first or they saw the work first, it gives them maybe what the artist was thinking, but I think it's still possible that each individual who saw the work went away with whatever they connected with through the visual representation, not just the words that the artist provided. I think it was just maybe a thread in that. And I think that's what's so interesting and powerful, because we may all go somewhere and read an artist statement, and then you see that person's work and you're like, no, that's not at all what I'm seeing. And you love the work and you're happy for the artist because that's the direction that person is taking. But you see the work and you're reading it a certain way and there's something that speaks to you. Well, that's what's happening in this framework, and you provided that as a setting, and it's very powerful.
So glad, yeah. I mean, that's the thing I
think
get
just
too. Go ahead.
I think just the response of the people that I saw that visited the gallery when my daughter and I were there, I can only relate it to, when was the last time you went to a museum and you see the crowd of people go through a popular venue, and it's 1, 2, 3, okay, next one, 1, 2, 3. I mean, it's literally in tandem. Very rarely do you see, except for students or artists, somebody stepping back and maybe waiting on a bench for the crowd to clear a little bit, or spending a little bit of time with it. No, it's like a rote, I can only spend this much time and I have to look at the next one. Whereas this one forced you into asking a question or so within your own being. And I think that that slowdown is just a miraculous thing. And Renee, it's all your baby, you know. You've made us think in ways that didn't come naturally, or certainly for me, haven't occurred before.
Thank
You know,
you.
you name a painting, you finish a painting, you put a name on it, it's done.
And then the
Um,
name directs you a lot of times. That's why I did leave the title up,
Absolutely.
because the name is telling you this is what this is about, whereas the
Yeah.
story just wanted it to kind of intersect slightly in some whatever way it does. So, yeah. So
And
it
the
seems
stories were
perfect.
unique and wonderful. They weren't, this is what you're supposed to see. This
Right,
is what I
right.
painted. This is what you're supposed to see. They weren't
Right.
that. They
We
were
had
open.
poems and
ended.
we had prose, and it was just beautiful what you guys wrote and how it intersected. It was just perfect because it did allow that space. I think everybody did that so that people can see it, and it's okay to take away something different than what maybe the artist's intent is. Whereas a title kind of directs you a little bit more specifically, I think, unless it's, titled by a number or something.
Well, thank you, Renee, for providing that opportunity.
Agree with that.
I really want to honor Renee for really
Oh,
taking
yes.
risk to do something unique and different, and not certain how it was going to work.
Yeah.
And
Thank you, Renee.
really exciting.
Oh, you're
Yeah.
welcome. I'm hoping I'm going to make this one an annual show because I really liked it. I think I want to do this one every year. So that's the goal. I think it's a good January show because of these new beginnings and our stories. We're kind of rethinking. We're going through that process of evaluating our lives in January often. So I think it's a good first of the year show to do. So I look forward to doing many more of these with you guys. So hopefully you'll all come back. And maybe we'll be
It was
seeing
a
some
really
solo
good-
shows from some of you too. So I know,
Yeah.
I know we definitely have one coming up with Kate. She's got a solo show coming in here. So yay. I'm excited about that for
I'm excited.
April. Yeah, it's gonna be good.
Very excited. And being part of this group show to kick off the year has been such a wonderful, I just found it a really nice celebration to be among other women artists, an opportunity to hear diverse voices and just really open up, it just sort of opens up a sense of possibilities of, for me anyway, looking at, I think with everybody else about pairing writing and visuals together. That's been really exciting to think about possibilities there. But I think it's been a really good show, and I'm looking forward to putting together my own thinking about reflecting on my work that I've been doing and pulling it together to put into one show. It's a fantastic opportunity, so thank you.
Thank
Looking forward to
you.
it.
Thank you,
That's
everybody, for being here. I think we're going to get kicked out of Zoom in about a second, but I just want to thank you all for taking the time
Thank
and
you.
energy to do this. So I love you all. I just really do. Thank you. I can't say enough
Great
thanks.
group.
Renee.
Awesome. Thanks.
Bye.
Thank you so much, Renee. Bye,
Thank you.
everyone.
Bye, Renee.
Have a great
Bye.
rest of
Bye
your week.
everyone.
Bye-bye. Thank you. Thanks so much. Stop my